Hello, hello, hello. It is Thursday, November 19th, and this is the Thursday afternoon live stream where we talk about cars, stuff to do with cars, parts of cars, repairing cars, old cars, particularly. I know occasionally we get some questions about more modern stuff, but, the focus is pretty much cars from the 50s, 60s, 70s, stuff like that. So if you're interested in that and you're just showing up and checking out this live stream, that's what we'll focus on. And probably the main focus will be Mustangs. My channel is flooded with videos for Mustangs, and there's a lot of information on there about them. And of course, a lot of the people that follow my channel are interested in Mustangs and restoration of those cars. So that's what the focus is. I can see I've already got 14 viewers checking in, and it looks like Jeff Reynolds has been sitting here for quite a while. He says, tonight I've cooked chicken casserole already and just need to warm it up at 3 p.m. Georgia time. So, good. That sounds really good, chicken casserole. That sounds good. Crash Rider, hello from Southern Indiana. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up. Yes, by all means, hit the thumbs up button and share with your friends. Jerry is checking in from Middle Tennessee. Nandu is checking in. Glad you're here. Randy Owl. I keep saying owl. I hope that's right. A-U-E-L. It looks like it should be owl. So here from Iowa. And am so. Hi all. I'm welding up and installing the new doors on the shop today, so I will only be listening. Please keep the humorous comments to a minimum. It messes with my already sad welding skills. We'll see what we can do about that. RJ is checking in. Jerry is asking, on one of the live streams, you talked about a product that kills rust. I think it may be purchased at Harbor Freight. Yes. I have used that product. It's Iron Armor is, I think, the name of the company. And I can only assume it works. It looks like it works because it tells you that it hits the rust and it changes it to, a black finish. So I can only assume it works. I know this stuff is pretty toxic. I'll say that. I know spraying it and having some fumes, it was pretty toxic. I can show you that. Hold on a second. Talk amongst yourselves. So, yeah. This is the product, rust reformer from Iron Armor. And anyway, I don't know what all's in it, but I spray it and get out of there. I'm not sure what the contents are. Yeah, it may cause permanent brain damage and nervous system damage. Yeah. Of course, it's, banned in California or whatever. But anyway, so that's the product I've been using. Like I said, as far as I know, it works. I haven't done any field testing where I've sprayed it and parked it outside for months at a time to see what happens. But I'm assuming that it works. Ricard is checking in from Sweden. And Bob Knoll checking in. I'm doing well. How are you, Bob? Jason Schneider checking in. He is the dad of Shelby, and they're working on that 68 Mustang we talked about last week. Eric Rusendahl. I think it's how you say that. I hope it's how you say it. Rusendahl from Australia. Nice. That's a new name. I've not seen Eric Rusendahl before. Randy. Last name pronounced all, but I've heard every variation, so used to it. Okay. Well, by the vowels in the middle, it looks like it should be owl. Owl. I don't know. If I remember, I'll say all, but sorry if I don't. Bob Knoll, looking at that picture right there, that looks like my garage with my Mustang. Cool. Yeah, in fact, I've rearranged things today because, again, I'm going to be spraying some epoxy primer on the fenders, the hood, and various other pieces and parts that I talked about previously, and for the '68 Mustang known as Jade. And I thought about spraying it in this space, but then I was like, no, let me get this out of the way. And so I brought it back up front today. And besides, I need to finish adjusting this door to get the alignment, dead where I want it, dead center. And then I will be doing, I guess, a fit test of the other panels once I get them in epoxy. So FE 428 power. I have a '68 Cougar and have a primer if you want to do some wet sanding. No thanks. Not today. Not today. Dave and Cheryl checking in before I go to work. Hello to everyone, and throw a big thumbs up. Yes. Yes. Randy, no problem. Either way, it is a German name. I understand how that works. Gordon Cahoon, 737 Max is back. Are you glad you retired? I am glad that I retired. I'm sure I'll have some second thoughts on it as time goes by, but I'm, I've as I see things going on in the world, and I see things going on in different businesses and industry and all that sort of thing. I'm glad I'm not part of it. Let's just put it that way. I'm comfortable not being involved with all the stuff going on. I do miss the, conversations with people. I do miss having access to equipment in some sense. There was some industrial equipment that I could use at times to take care of some various projects that I had working on. But I miss that stuff. Otherwise, I don't miss going to work anymore. I don't miss driving to work. I don't miss dealing with traffic and all that sort of thing, and having to put in, a certain period of time to, get a paycheck. Now, with that said, of course, I miss the paycheck. I do miss that paycheck. That's pretty important. It's nice to, the YouTube thing is okay. It's still not technically enough to live on, but it's okay. It's helping supplement this process. So I don't regret leaving. So FE 428. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm not. No, I'm not gonna do any wet sanding. Not today. Not this weekend. Anyway, so like I said, I've moved the Mustang around, or Jade brought it around, and I've got most of the panels ready, as I talked about or showed in the update video that I did earlier in the week. I pulled the hood out of the box, and apparently I did have it out of the box before. I just forgot, and that's okay. I knew there was nothing wrong with it. I did find one flaw in that hood, and it's an up dent, not a down. It's an up, which I don't know how that happens. The thing should be coming off the press and whatever, going into a box. And you wouldn't think there'd be something that could just cause a just a little tiny ding. So that'll smooth out pretty quick. Just a quick little tap with a hammer and dolly, and it'll take care of it. But the hood's out of the box. And I mentioned in that update video that I'm considering reshaping the lower valance because where the license plate goes, it has that kind of tapered cutout. Not that I have a problem with that. It's fine. But I was just thinking of trying to get a little more air going into or deflecting up towards the radiator. I'm still on the fence about it because the way that thing is shaped, I held it underneath the car today and lined it up where it would be sitting. And right behind that panel is the vertical piece for the mount point for the latch in the hood latch assembly. So I don't know that I could get it to go angled back quite the way I want it to, but I have some designs in my head that I might try to incorporate. And what I was thinking of doing, instead of doing one panel where I lean it the whole thing back, I thought about doing like a couple of cuts, so that if you were to look at the panel coming across the front where it dips down for the license plate, I thought about making it dip down and then come back up in the center, so that it looked like a little pair of scoops, maybe. Just kind of a thought, because I can't push it back all the way where that vertical piece is. So just some thoughts going on in my head. I looked at I might try to find some sheet metal that I have that has some natural curves to it, or I'll have to take a look. I have another valance panel up in the rafters for a 65. I may look at where I could section that and take some of those pieces out that already have a natural curve. I might have to get creative on that one, but it's a good thought. Randy, let's just get these rusty cars repaired and get them back on the road before they start getting rid of them. Be a great retirement job in mine. I'm ready to move. I'm ready to move on it soon too. Yeah. I mean, I've enjoyed just being out in the garage and doing my own thing. But again, it's it's stuff like, here I am talking to the computer. Really, I mean, I'm reading responses, but it's nice to have those conversations with people about projects and different things. Ricard, I like watching progress on grade. Do you have an update on the Brooklyn Pony? Not really. It's up on the lift right now, and I've been waiting on parts for quite some time. So I need to do other things. So I'm just going to focus on Jade and try to get it. All the way to paint. I want to get at least to paint, and then once I get it in paint, I have all the pieces. I think I have all the pieces to put it back together. I've been going through boxes and different things. I don't have taillights yet, and I'm debating on where I want to get this from, because I may put in LED style taillights. But I do have new rear backup lights. I have new door handles. I have new door panels. I have new carpet, new headliner, door seals. I've got new front and rear seals for the glass. I've got new inserts for the hood, because it's the 68 hood with the turn signal indicators in it. So I have those new inserts. I have all the wiring for that. I have new hood hinges. I have a variety of things, but there's still little pieces that I need to get together for assembly, like clips and different things that hold trim on that I know they're no good anymore. There's still the debate on whether I want to use the original 289 emblems that came on the car, or if I want to change them out to 302. Not that it really matters, because it was a 289 car. So I haven't decided yet on what I'm going to do with that. But at this point, I really just want to get everything. I would love to have everything painted and everything bolted on the car, so I'm not taking up space with pieces laying around all over the place. It's kind of helps to have everything contained. And that's the other thing too. I don't even know. I know I have bumpers for the car, but the condition is unknown. I haven't really looked at them that hard, so I may have to get new bumpers too. Just all these little things that add up pretty quick. Sammy Lisa Smith checking in. Glad you're here. Marshall, hi folks. Can I put epoxy primer over rage filler and then paint on top of that? I'm new to the body work part of this. Well, the way it works, epoxy is meant to go to bare metal, directly to bare metal. And then there's a brief window of time from epoxy to paint, typically. What it is there's a cure cycle on the epoxy. And normally you have like 3 or 4 days to put another something on top of it before you have to scuff it. Now, with that said, you can put it on top of your filler. That's not a problem. But I don't know that I would go paint on top of that. The reason for that is you've done the body work. Epoxy is really meant, like I said, it's a contact, bare metal contact paint. And you can put it on top of the filler. That's not a problem. However, it's not meant to be like sanded, as in a finished type of sanding. So if you were to sand on that, it's going to end up being scratchy because epoxy dries really, really hard. And you can sand it though. I mean, but my opinion is I want to put a build primer on top of that epoxy so that when I can sand it and get everything smooth without having to fight with it. Because like I said, epoxy is it's hard to deal with. Once you get it dried out, it's really hard to deal with in that sense. And that's my opinion. I mean, I've heard of people going on top of epoxy with paint, but I'm just not a fan of that. Just not the way I'm going to do it. So I always go on top of it with a build. Gordon, what is your solution to replacing the plastic wheel well water shields on newer vehicles? Not available for purchase on this vehicle. Well, that's a good question. That's a good question. And you say not available for this vehicle. What's the vehicle? Is probably the bigger question. Because there's places out there that have they've collected up stuff like that, but I mean I don't know what the vehicle is or how hard it is to find parts for that particular vehicle. So kind of hard. Give me some more information on that, and we'll talk about it. Randy, we're here to help you progress. Thank you. I appreciate that. Paul, with what wheel tire setup will you go on Jade? Well, it's already on there. The wheels are kind of a torque thrust style wheel. They are 17-inch, and the rear wheels are 9-inch, and the front wheels are 8-inch. And they came this way. I wanted the wheels, but they came with tires already on them. Of course, I'm going to use those tires. I don't remember the exact size. Let me look real quick if I can pull it out or see it. The rear tire is a 255 40 ZR17. 255 40 ZR17. And the front tires are 235 40 ZR17. So hopefully that helps. I don't know, but these things are the tires and wheels that are on it. Now I will point this out. There is a variable on this back, because even though I don't know what the offset is, but the wheels that I bought, the tires and wheels, they were on a Falcon at some point, and the guy was going with a different route, so he just sold me these as a package deal. But the rear end that's in this car is out of a 59, I think it's a 59 Mercury station wagon. And I questioned that whenever I got the car and I started working on it. I'm like, what is this rear end? And I did a rebuild video on it. There is a video on it where I took out the mini spool that somebody had put in this thing. And the rear end is actually narrower than a factory Mustang rear end. In those station wagons, they had a narrower rear end. And I actually I'm still in contact with the guy that owned this car before me, and I said, what's the deal with this? And he said, oh yeah, the people used to buy those because you could put wider wheels on without modifying anything else. Okay. Well, this particular car, they put in that narrow rear end, and then they put spacers. So you may have seen it in some of the videos. There's spacers on the drum that are like 1.25 inches. So even with those on, those tires still fit underneath the quarters. So plenty of room there. Hopefully that gives you some information. I don't know. David Churro, love seeing Jade in the background, looking good and coming along like your idea about the front balance. Well, thank you. Thank you. Bob, the list just goes on and on for our needs. Yes, it does. Paul, Gordon says, Gordon, I'm sure there are new ones available. If not, a good old junkyard and look. And he's talking about the, so the vehicle is a 92 Isuzu Pup. Yeah, that's kind of hard to find stuff for. I don't know how far you've researched what's out there. But the Isuzu, that's gonna be a tough one to come. Honestly, that'll be a tough one to come up with, because you're gonna have to find something like that in the junkyard and hope that it's not wrecked. Boy, that's a tough question to answer. I don't know if they sell a material out there that you could modify to make it do the job that you need, or find something that maybe had a bigger panel, that was similar to that shape. If you can find a vehicle in that had a, like I said, a bigger panel, and just trim it down till it fits, try to get as close as you can. But yeah, that's going to be a tough one to find. Mike Cook has raised his hand, so he must have a question. Mason Fox, hey, Joe Daddy. He's making his garage into a shop. He has a hardtop convertible he keeps in his garage. 2000 Pontiac G6 convertible. Cool. Travis, do you know if the hinges were supposed to be painted the car color? I'm thinking of keeping mine black, but painting the car red. Opinion. I don't think they paid that much attention. To me, they need to be body color, honestly. It's going to be really hard to keep them black, depending on how you're doing the paint work. Like, for instance, I'm going to, once I get these doors aligned, they'll probably come off one more time, but they're going to go back on. Once I jam the doors, they'll get rehung prior to, finished paint. But I'll have the fender on the car, and I'll have it move forward so that I can get in behind and get around the corners and all that stuff. So it's going to get overspray at minimum on those fenders. Now, you could do it if you are doing independent panels, but painting it red, I'm assuming, or I'm hoping you're going to paint that car all together, because you can have so much variation doing like panel painting. Unless the panel is hanging exactly as it would be on the car and all those sort of things, you can run into situations. Like if you lay a panel down and paint it, it's going to be a different color than when it was standing up. Trust me. But the you could do it. I mean, it would be. I don't think it's going to matter as far as a viewer standpoint. Like if you're showing the car to somebody, I don't think they'll really notice or pay attention to it. If they're looking down in your door jamb to see the color, then they're probably looking too hard anyway. But I would probably just like to see them painted body color. But again, it's your choice, really. You're doing the job, so you can make it however you want it. But I would think that in general, when he's got painted, they overspray went on him and stuff like that. Where did you find that hat? I like it. Well, this hat was from Mustangs Unlimited. I had made a huge order up there years ago, or I'd made multiple orders, up there. And the guy was trying, I don't know what, they were like happy that I bought a bunch of stuff. And they said, you bought enough stuff. Why don't you pick out a hat? I'll take that one. So that's how I have this hat. Came from Mustangs Unlimited. I don't know, who makes it or whatever. Checkered Flag Sports is the name of the company. CFS. I don't know. Fits my head. That's all that matters. Paul says maybe take a look on eBay for that Isuzu fender liner. That may be an option. Chris Greenway, what is your opinion on the 72 Montego GT or Gran Torino Sport? Those are big cars. That's probably my opinion on that. They're big cars. And not that there's anything wrong with that. I like any cars that were built, well, almost any cars that were built prior to about 74, 75, somewhere in that range. But I remember seeing those cars like at my dad's junkyard, especially the Montego. I remember seeing one of those at the junkyard, and the Gran Torino Sport. I mean, it's going to be. I know it's a big car. Each has their own place in the history of cars. It's not on my list of cars that I want to have, but that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. So I don't know if you're looking at buying one or getting into them, or if you have one, but it's a cool car. They're both cool cars. Mason Fox, the main part of your shop is what size and length? It is 24 feet across by 24 by 36. Yeah, 24 wide, 36 long. So if that helps, I don't know. Jack W is checking in. Who's your garage? Full frame car. So you're talking about the Torinos, I assume, that you're referring to them as full frame cars, which is got some value to it. Gary White, do you have any experience with coil spring compressor tools? I haven't used one in a while, but in the past had all sorts of trouble removing the tool once the coil is reinstalled. Any experience? Yeah, that is a tough thing. I have used a variety of spring compressor tools. The last one I used, I borrowed from a friend of mine. So if you're talking about Mustangs in particular, I don't know. But if you look at the Jade videos where I did the suspension on this car right here, I used that tool, and I'm pretty sure I showed that tool. And it was a little bit different design. A lot of times they have some that go on the outside. They have some that go in the center. So maybe that'll help you with that. But I've used a variety of different ones, and you're right. They all kind of don't do what you want them to do very well. This kind of made me think when you said that, you brought that up years and years ago. And I'm going to count this as a quick little junkyard story, because I tend to, remember junkyard stories occasionally. There you go, junkyard story time. Talking about spring compressors, one of the the first Mustang I ever worked on was a 70 coupe, 6-cylinder, 3-speed manual car. And long story behind why I was working on that car, but that car was wrecked in the right front at my dad's junkyard. It was wrecked so bad that the right front tire had rolled up the bottom of the floor pan on the passenger side. So all the suspension was ripped out of it. And, I was 16 at the time. And so I wanted to swap this thing over to a V8 or 5-lug wheels, but not actually put a V8 in it, but put 5-lug wheels on it. So I pulled apart another Mustang, and I was starting to swap out I had to take the coil spring out of the car when I was doing the work, taking the spindles off or whatever. And we didn't have a spring compressor. I didn't even know at that time, this would have been 83. I didn't even know what that was. At the junkyard, we just took bolts loose until something went flying. That was literally, you get out of the way, here comes the spring, right? So to put them back in, I never really thought about it. Well, here was my creation. And you're going to laugh at this. You should laugh at this. We had, again, junkyard, all kinds of pieces and parts and junk, right? I took radiator hose clamps, like 40 radiator hose clamps. And I snaked them around coils, and I tightened them down. And I did like a whole bunch of these hose clamps until I was able to compress that spring, and then put it back in the car, and then take them off slowly until it came back up. So it worked. I did both front springs like that. I'm not saying that's the best choice. I'm just saying sometimes you get creative when you're 16 and nobody has any advice for you. So that's the end of that one. Let's see. Let's go back up to the top here. Yep, 24 by 36 is good size. Torino Starsky and Hutch Special. There you go. Let me close that. All right. Let's see. Jay Umden checking in. Glad you're here. Who's your garage? As far as Fords, what about the Maverick Comet? Too small? Too small for what? I mean, they're basically I think they pretty much shared. Well, not exactly. They were different. The design was different. I don't have anything against them. I think they're cool little cars when they got a V8 like a Grabber edition. I think they're cool little cars, but I've never had one that I recall. But I'm not against them, not at all. Let's see, Chris. When I collect my dream car collection, which is a 72 Montego, 70 Cougar Eliminator, my 77 Firebird, 69 Mach 1, and 74 Torino Sport, I'm weird like collecting the sister of certain vehicles. Well, that's all right. I mean, that's all right. Let me know when you get that order filled. Okay, so we have some side conversations going on, and that's fine. Let's see. Jay Umden. I pulled a C4 automatic transmission from a 65289 and picked up the whatever it takes rebuild kit. Not sure if you used them before. Any advice you could give me before I attempt a rebuild? I don't mess with transmissions. I never have. I mean, I put little shift kits and stuff like that in, but I have a friend who builds transmissions, and I hand it to him. He hands it back. I put it in the car. So I really don't mess with transmissions. Robert Clymer. Hello, Barry and car people. Glad you're here, Robert. Let's see. Who's your garage? I see people do that on Coil Springs, but with zip ties. Yeah. Well, they didn't have zip ties in 1983, at least not that I knew of. But hose clamps worked. Here's a question from Cade. Are there bell housings for T45 that bolt up to a 302? If anybody has any questions or any answers for that, are there bell housings for a T45 that bolt up to a 302? So I don't have an answer for that, but if anybody else does, please respond to Cade and let him know. Gordon, the only bad idea is one that doesn't work. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. It's like the comment that you when I was doing Spartan races, there was a advertisement or something. It says you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So literally, it's saying if you're always going to miss if you don't try. But I like that one too. Robert Clymer, duct tape not good enough for them. Mitch Lesko, what's your dream car? Well, I don't know for sure. I mentioned it before. As far as Mustangs go, it'd probably be a 69 Mach 1. My dad had one that was Acapulco Blue, 351 Windsor, 4-speed. Your atypical, when you think of a 69 Mach 1, that's the one that comes to your mind. The Acapulco Blue, the stripes on it, all that sort of thing. But I can't say that would be the only, dream car. I would like to have a 53 Studebaker Starlight Coupe. I would love to have a 53 or 54. 59 Studebaker Lark, for some reason, always pops up in my head. There's a variety of cars and stuff that I would like to have. If I went so far as to say a 58 Impala convertible, why not? If I'm dreaming, why not dream, something like that? 55 Chevy pickup, 49 Ford F1. There's all kinds of different things. Mopar family. Well, any of the really trippy cars they had in the late 60s, early 70s. I'm keen on a 67 Belvedere GTX. course, the Roadrunners, Chargers, all those cool cars, the Cudas. So, growing up in a junkyard, I can't having a variety of cars around me all my life. It's really hard for me to go, well, that's the one. Once I get that one, I'll be satisfied because I just can't. I just won't be. I know that. And speaking of which, now that you brought that up, I'm gonna do a second junkyard story. Because this one I talked about previously, and I mentioned this about a Javelin that was at my dad's junkyard, and I remember that car because it was unique. Okay, it was like a 69 or 70, Javelin body, whatever. And I remember looking at it because the car was black and it had gold striping on it, but on the roof, it had a spoiler on the roof, on the back, right where the back glass comes up. It had this little spoiler. And I remember thinking about that when I was a teenager. I'm like, what the heck is this car? Because I've never seen anything like this. And I remember it had a big engine in it, and it had a 4-speed, and the right side of the car was pancaked. Like they had slid it into a wall and just kind of flattened the whole side of the car. But the rest of the car was in fantastic shape. So I did some research on this. Well, it turns out there was an edition called the Mark Donahoe Javelin that you could buy with that spoiler up on the roof. And I found some available for sale. But I haven't seen any painted up like that. So apparently it was a special edition Mark Donahoe, or Donahue, however you want to say it, when he raced SCCA or whatever road course stuff. So I brought that up before. I thought it was another driver, but apparently it was Donahoe. So just an observation, just something to stir up the pot. Bad Harry is checking in. Glad you're here. Karsten, I believe Denmark, right? Checking in. Jay Umden, good advice. Yeah, I don't remember what I said, but good advice. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I see. I know where we're getting at. Not missing the shots, right? Chris Greenway, any tips on preparing for paint? I compounded it and then polished it, Wait a minute. Preparing for paint, I compounded it and then polished, didn't wax it. It's nearly washed out. I'm not sure what your question is. When you say any tips on prepping or preparing for paint, you use compound and polish? Maybe I'm misunderstanding the question. Rephrase that and we'll talk about it. Robert Clymer, a dream car still remains my old 69 Judge Ram Air 4. Still dream about that car. Traded in 73 for a Grand Prix SJ. I got 1,500 trade-in. I could kill myself. Oh my gosh. Yeah, well, at that time, nobody knew. We always thought the cars would keep getting cooler, right? Of course, I'm born in the late 60s, so I grew up in the 70s, but I would venture to think that if you looked at the history of the cars, and you look at the 50s and 60s, and as time went on and new designs came out, and new designs and cooler cars, nobody looked forward to that gas crunch era whenever everything would turn into a little, Mustangs were little clunky little Pintos. I think and the mindset was there will be more cool cars coming, more and more and more, and then it never happened, until much later. So I could see where you could be upset with that, but really can't look back on that. Yeah, there you go. Wayne Gretzky with his shots quote. Yep. I knew it was attributed to somebody. Robert Clymer, high school buddy, had a 58 Silverhawk with a built 289 Ford 4-speed. So they put a Ford engine in it, or was it a Studebaker 289? Because Studebaker made a 259 and a 289, and those are the most popular V8s. And a lot of people get that confused. When they hear 289, they think automatically Ford. But Studebaker had a 259 and a 289. 67, I want a 69 Mustang with turboed Coyote. Well, Yeah, that sounds cool. That sounds cool. Chintzy, have you ever tried a shrinker serrated disc for shrinking metal? I have not. I've seen them, um, but I have not tried them. So, all right. So Marshall has a comment for Cade. There we go. Good. That's what we need to see. We need to have stuff like that. People helping answer questions. So, Levi, watching Against the Rules at work. Good for you. Chintzy, I have a 35 Ford Coupe 5-window and a 71 Chevelle convertible. Well, that's cool. That's cool. Oh, wait. Oh, come on, Belle. There we go. David and Cheryl got to going to work. We are proud of being part of this community here at JD's Garage. Keep up the great work. Very big thumbs up. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. There you go. Who's Your Garage? I have a magazine article about a Donahue Javelin. Yep. Had a signature as a decal on the back. That's cool. Karsten, I rebuilt my AOD automatic transmission with help from YouTube videos and went easy. Well, that's cool. I've just avoided them. I just avoid transmissions. Just not my thing. Have you seen my new cup? Finally got a couple of these. One for me, one for the wife. Well, she's already claimed the other one. Let's put it that way. Mitch, what's the most trouble you've gotten into with your cars? Most trouble? Most trouble? Most trouble. Gosh. I had a 67 Plymouth Belvedere that I bought, and it was a GTX clone. It only had a 318 in it, automatic, but it had a 150 mile speedometer in it because parts were taken from GTX. So probably that's probably the most dangerous or most trouble I would have gotten into. I had finished up basic training in the Army, and I came home on leave to Pennsylvania, and I bought the car while I was on leave. And then I drove it back to Georgia for me to drive around and hang out, whatever. And so me and another soldier were driving back, headed south, and we were driving through Virginia. Now, we'd gotten through, and it was wintertime, of course, and we had old bias ply tires on this car, nothing special. We're driving we're coming into Virginia, and I don't know why, but I decided to see, it was like 3 in the morning, 2 o'clock, 3 in the morning. And I thought, man, I wonder how fast this car will really go. Probably a bad choice. So I started giving this thing gas, and I was passing everything in sight. It was like pretty cool. Well, I ended up, there was a guy, I ended up getting pulled over. I don't know, I can't remember if it was a state trooper or what, but they were driving this would have been 85, early 85, or late 85, early 86. And they were driving, a Mustang GT at that time. Well, I was just flying down the road. My friend was actually asleep beside me. And I'm watching the speedometer, and I hit about 130 miles an hour in that car. And all of a sudden, there was, like I said, there's no traffic on the road. And all of a sudden, these lights came on behind me. And I was like, oh, no, this can't be good. So I finally got the car stopped and got it, pulled over. And the state trooper or whoever he was, cop, I don't know, he actually had his gun drawn, had his gun drawn on me as he was approaching the car. I was smart enough to put my hands out the window and all that stuff, let him know you're okay. And I very easily could have gone to jail that night because, in Virginia, they are super strict on speeding. Well, I ended up telling him I was trying to get back to Fort Benning, coming home off of leave, and showed him my papers and all my information. And he looked at me and he says, do you have any idea how fast you're going? And I was like, no. We're all going to say no, right? So I said, no. And he looked at me kind of funny and he said, I had you doing 75. And I said, oh, yeah, that sounds exactly right. I believe I was doing 75. So what turned into what could have been a very bad situation turned into a very good situation in effect, because I just had to mail in a ticket and pay the fine. And I just realized I have a microphone sitting off to the side. Hope that didn't change anything. Hope you're still hearing me okay. But anyway, so that was probably one of the worst situations that I've gotten into. Otherwise, I had a lot of speeding tickets when I was younger in my 72 Chevy 4x4, reckless driving, stuff like that, which thankfully I grew out of. But that was probably, that ticket was probably, or that situation was probably the most trouble I should have been in, but got away with it. Jeff Reynolds, hybrid, lots of comments in just 40 minutes. Yeah. Kudulev, checking in for 20 minutes for my next Zoom meeting. Always a welcome break from BS corporate life. Yeah. Robert Climber. Oh, I'm not sure what that is in response to. Sorry. Alan Abraham. I have a 70 Maverick. I'm building for a 351 Windsor. That's cool. That's a cool car. Get that Windsor in there. Chris Greenaway. When I bought the car, I compounded the paint and polished, but didn't wax to see the glaring issues with the paint going in the booth. Will those products affect the outcome? Yes. I mean, well, you said polish. You compounded the paint and polished, but you didn't use wax. Wax is the your biggest problem. But if compound, normally what happens on those situations, you want to wash that car thoroughly, and usually like a Dawn dishwashing liquid, because it'll break down wax and stuff like that to get all that junk off of there. You want to get it down as clean as you can. But otherwise, without seeing the car, knowing exactly what your plans are. I mean, it says going into the booth in the spring. I mean, just do your sanding prep. Whatever needs to be fixed, obviously. But I just wax is not a good thing when you want to try to paint, because it'll leave it'll cause fish eyes and all kinds of junk. Jared Jordan, your thoughts on converting from original drum brakes to original 68 disc brakes on a 68 six-cylinder car, not an aftermarket kit. Disc brakes are off of a 68 Mustang V8 car. Well, I mean, if everything works, you have to swap over. I know you have to swap over the spindles. If everything works, I don't see any problem with that. I think you'll have to, of course, you have to work with the brake pedal. If you have all the components out of the 68 V8 car, like the master cylinder, the brake pedal, the proportioning valve, all those pieces will have to be functional. The pedal will have to be swapped out. But yeah, I mean, that's not a good conversion to me. I'd do it. No comment. How are you doing? I have a question about the right side light. The question's a little confusing. Just replace it, still won't come on. Do you think it is an electrical problem? Well, first thing you need to do is test the bulb. Make sure your bulb is good. And whatever, I don't know what the vehicle is, if it's how modern it is, or what you have. But you can also use, I have a little tester that I have somewhere up here on the wall. It's a very simple lit up circuit tester, and basically you can buy them at any hardware store. It's looks like a little screwdriver with a point on the end of it, and you can ground. It has a clip on one end where you can ground it. You can ground it to a grounded spot. Make sure it's got ground contact, and then you can turn a light on, and then you can touch the internal contacts and make sure the little light comes on. So you're saying it's an Infinity 2006 i30? Okay, yeah. I mean, check the bulb first. Make sure the bulb is good, and then you got to check for power. And that probe, I don't know where I have it at right now. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can find it. So here's what I have. This little circuit tester. And like I was saying, you can take this thing and you can actually test the wire itself as well, because the way this is designed, again, it looks like a little screwdriver. This is your ground lead, has to be contacted to bare metal. And then this is your light is inside of this thing down here in the bottom. Runs off a 12 volt. Well, you can see it's got a little sharp little point. I hope you can see that. So the idea is you can actually take it and press it into the wires and push it in and make sure it's got power coming in. So you're not going to affect anything because you're attached to ground. So if it has power, it'll light the light up. If it doesn't, you got something else going on. But this is a very simple little tool, very cheap. You can pick it up at any parts store. This one I think is made by, it's made by Ampro. And there's a part number is T71182. Again, very simple little tool. So you might want to try something like that and verify your power at the contact points for the bulb. Hope that helps. Robert Clymer 289 stewed or Ford. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean they're both 289s, but Studebaker 289 and the Ford 289 are completely different engines. It was referring to the Stewed or Ford 289 and the Silverhawk. Okay, all right, yeah, and that's one thing about the Studebaker engines. I'll give you some insight. If you're familiar, they put superchargers on them back in the 50s. You know, you could buy them in a McCulloch or a Paxton supercharger. And so the engines had to be built to a higher tolerance to handle the pressures. And a lot of people just don't realize that those engines are super tough. They're overbuilt, in fact. And just an observation, you know, they're just super tough engines. And then oddly enough, there's a certain period of time, trying to remember how they were labeled, but like you can buy a head gasket kit. Now, granted, in 65, I think it was, Studebaker tried to stay in business by they were putting Chevy engines in them because they were, you know, dying. But I think prior to that, even they sell head gaskets for Chevys, but you buy it for a Studebaker and it'll say Chevy on it as well. And I think there's some crossover prior to 64 or 65 where they shared a similar design in the heads or something. I don't remember specifically, but it's kind of one of those oddball type of things. Ronald Bell checking in from Northeast Tennessee. Better late than never. I'm glad you're here. Chuncy, you would need Preps All grease remover on that thing for painting Chris Greenaway. That's what I use. Okay. So, yeah, like I said, as a basic thing, you know, we would use dishwashing liquid to break down all the junk that was on it, but there are better products out there, as Chuncy has said. Preps All grease remover, that's a good choice, or wax and grease remover, sorry. Yeah, because you don't want any of that stuff hanging on. Just like if you're doing any kind of work on vehicles, like, you know, granted, I do all kinds of stuff out here. It could be welding, it could be changing out parts, whatever. But anytime you use a lubricant, you run the risk of causing problems with your paint if that's something you're doing down the road. So you want to make sure you isolate stuff like that, chemicals away from your paint work. That's a good point, Robert. Make sure it has a battery in it using that tester. Yes, your car has to have battery power at the minimum. This little tool, how much does it go for? $5, maybe. I mean, something like that. They're really cheap. Really cheap little tool. Chris, thanks for the help. As I have a buddy willing to paint it. I bought it in May, compounded it, polished it, but didn't wax as the black paint was blue with the amount of scuzz I washed the car. Yeah, I don't blame you. Okay. Alan, what are you doing to the 67 coupe behind you? This is a 68, but you're correct. 67, 68, you wouldn't know the difference if you didn't see the side scoops. So this is a car known as Jade, and that's I have a bunch of videos on this car. So this car started off as a 289 automatic with factory air conditioning, drum brakes, really not many options. And I bought it 7 years ago. I think I started on it 7 years ago. Probably bought it, at least 7 years ago. But I put floor pans in it to start with, torque boxes, floor supports, and then I did the front section where I put on new aprons, new radiator, core support, rebuilt the front brakes, rebuilt the front suspension, I should say, converted it to disc brake, converted it to power steering, and I pulled out the original air conditioning and I'm putting in a vintage air kit. I've also put on new quarter panels, new tail panel, new wheel houses, and I think that's about it at this point. So engine's rebuilt, transmission's rebuilt, rear end is rebuilt. Of course, it has all new brakes on it with the conversion and all that. So it is coming together soon, hopefully. Want to hear it run? Want to hear it run? I can fire it up. If I get some upvotes, get some thumbs up on the video, I can fire up the Jade Mustang. That's how I get to beg for thumbs up, right? Beg for thumbs up to have to fire up Jade so y'all can hear it. Let's see. Chris Greenaway 15 times since this is the info. Wait a minute. 15 times since then. Is this info important to pass to the painter? Yeah, you could. I mean, it's he should already know that. But it's always good to share that information. Adam Kress, what got you into car restoring? Did you have any experience prior to starting it? Also, what makes Mustangs your specialty? Well, I grew up at a junkyard. My dad had a junkyard, and so I've been around cars all my life. And I saw cars get crushed all the time, and I hated it. I always thought, these cars need to be restored, or keep them on the road, or whatever. And eventually I got away from the junkyard, went in the military, got out, and had a job as aircraft mechanic. And so I was doing cars on the side, like maintenance stuff. And then me and a buddy got together and we started doing cars to where I would do a bunch of work, bodywork stuff, and he would paint them. Then it became we had a body shop together, which all fell apart. And since that time, I've just been doing cars on my own at my home shop. So I can't say that. I guess Mustangs have become my specialty, just because I keep getting offered Mustangs to do. But I worked on all kinds of stuff. I have videos on Camaros. I've rebuilt all kinds of different things. But it seems like Mustangs have become more of the norm in that sense. But I like the process. I like fixing what's bad, cutting out bad material, welding things back together and making it right. So a great deal of satisfaction in that. 67 C10 guy. I have a 65 209. Could use a serpentine from a newer 302. I think my answer is maybe, because I don't know if the mount holes are all there for the system. So I can't say for sure. I have seen people use them, but I can't say for sure. Robert Clymer, nice being here. Thanks, Barry. See you soon. Good. We'll see you soon. Stuff and things. Didn't 68 also have side marker lights? Yes, they did. This one had side markers, the screw-on reflectors. And it did not have, I don't know what the quarters that were on this car were not the right quarters anyway. They had been swapped before. And so they had screwed those reflectors on. I think they're ugly. So I'm not putting them back on the car. I want to keep it smooth and do away with those reflectors. Not my thing. Cade, what does a torque box do, and where is it located on a 66 Mustang? Well, the torque box is just that. It helps contain the torque of the car. So if you were to look at, in this instance, right about here, where the cowl is, Right below that is where the torque box goes. So if you look at the Brooklyn Pony videos, the convertible, it has torque boxes in them, and there's one on either side. Not all cars had them on both sides, but there was, they came as, I think the convertibles did, but prior Mustangs like coupes, I think 67 only had them like on the passenger side, whatever. But what it does is it connects the floor support, the firewall, the floor pan to the rocker panel, primarily the inner rocker. And in doing so, it stiffens up that part of the car and eliminates twist. So, good thing to have. All right, here we go. Here we go. Got to connect the battery first. Does that sound good? Thumbs up. Now I'm going to have to shut this off. Huge. Whew. Get a little bit of air coming in. There you go. You got to hear it run. Let me see where we're at. Let's see. Whoop. You got this? What is that? Alan, just about the same time that I'm doing the Maverick, originally wanted to do a 67 Mustang, but too expensive these days. Yeah, it adds up quick. Does Jade have a 8-inch or 9-inch? It has a 9-inch rear end. And as I mentioned, you maybe didn't hear it, but the rear end is actually out of a 59 Mercury station wagon. So if you go back and look at the Jade videos, you'll see there's I show the whole process of taking a mini spool. Somebody put a mini spool in it, took that out, then I put regular spider gears back in it, put it back together. So it's just a regular, simple rear end for now, unless I decide to put in a limited slip later, but that's where I'm at. Chris, I love your live streams as you are quite informative. My 77 Firebird is in mint shape for being a Canadian car, 4,000 miles, no major rust, drove very sparingly, numbers matching. Wow, that's awesome. 77? Come on, Bell. There we go. 77, that's the Firebird, I think. Isn't that the Bandit style? Because I think it was 70. I know 79, they went to the big rubber nose, the big ugly rubber nose. Ugh, that ruined that car. But I think 77 and 78 had the nice, cool Bandit style grill in the nose. Very cool. Very cool. 4,000 miles. That's impressive. Alan, on the Serpentine, you would have to change water pump to a reverse pump, I think. Yeah, I think that is probably the case. I know with Brooklyn Pony, when I put on the Serpentine belt system from Vintage Air, it took their water pump and the housing and all that sort of thing. Yep, I agree. Sounds great. Yeah. I can't wait to hear it going down the road. I can't wait to hear it going down the road. Gonna have some tunes going, and enjoy the ride when it gets to that point. Very nice. My 6 Fastback wants to sound like that. Well, it can. If you go back and you look at the Jade videos, there's a video where I show the engine in particular, and I think there's another one where I show the exhaust on the car, and I talk about the camshaft that's in the car, in the engine. So if you want to see what the numbers are, you can go look at those. Can't beat the sound of a Ford with a flat tap at camp. Yeah, it does sound great. I agree. I mean, I've had lots of different vehicles. I've had Mopars, I've had Chevys, and I mean, I'm keen to the sound of a small block Chevy. I like it, but I'm really liking the way this thing sounds. Brian Betts, how do you like the Summit brand DTM epoxy? I plan on getting a cheap Harbor Freight spray gun spray to apply epoxy, and I'm not sure which brand epoxy to go with. Jade sounds really good. I'm okay with this epoxy. It may be not. Well, how do I want to put it? I've noticed when it sits, it gets thick really quick, like in the bottom of the can. It gets kind of feels thick. And I've had somebody ask me a question about that on one of my videos. It's like, hey, something happened where it sprayed out weird. Well, if you don't mix this stuff up really well, you could end up with some spatter, but it's not that big a deal. But I haven't seen any issues with it. So far, I've sprayed it, and it seems to work fine. So I don't know if there's any other advice somebody might have, but I like it, at least at this point. Sweet sound, nice rumble. Yeah. Yeah, 67 does have a cam upgrade. Yeah. I don't know. I can't remember the cam specs on it. Like I said, a buddy of mine built the engine for me, and he drag races. And so whenever I initially wanted the engine built, I said, look, I want a stock engine. It ain't stock. It ain't stock. But I'm not complaining. It sounds really awesome. Chris Greenaway, JJ, correct. Mine has dual simulated hood scoops. Yes. You're talking about the on the side of the car. Yeah, it would have quarter scoops, I guess is what would be the right term. Oh, you're talking about on the hood instead of a shaker? Okay. Because this car has the turn signals in the hood. It has those indicators that go in the top. So I'm assuming, I don't know if we're on the same page or not, but Bad Harry, Jade sounds great. I took my 6.6 down the road and my neighbor said, shook his living room window, open headers over 700 horsepower. Yeah, I'll bet. Let's see. Instead of a shaker. Okay. Crash Rider, you won't get that sound in an electric car. That is true. That is true. Hoosier, Nason epoxy primer is pretty decent if you don't want to spend a lot yet have a good base. Okay. Thank you for that. Sean Cummings, I see a car behind you. What kind is that? It is a 68 Mustang coupe. You must be just getting here because I just started it up like 5 minutes ago. Calvin, ever do a ProFlow 4? I don't. You'd have to enlighten me. I'm not sure what that is. You have to give me some more information on that one. Let me see where we're at here, just in case. Okay. I'm trying to get. I've talked about this a couple times, several times now. I've had hats made up previously, and then I had somebody else help me out with hats, and they had given me this version, which we've talked about. It's a little too big where it says garage. So I'm just checking my emails. I'm trying to get this finalized so I can start offering hats again. It's been kind of a struggle getting this taken care of, and I don't know why it's so difficult. But you can look at this one, see the size of the garage on it, and look at this one, and that garage is way too big. So anyway, I was just checking. I had an email come in about that. So hopefully we can get that resolved pretty soon. 67, do you use lead substitute or change valves? This thing has hardened valves in it, valve seats. It's all it's all built for cheap gas, let's say. Sean, restoring the Mustang. Yes. Yeah. If you're new to the channel, new to the videos and stuff like that on my channel, go to the playlist for Jade, Jade, and you'll see the whole build of this car. 68 coupe, factory 289 with automatic and factory air conditioning that I've done a ton of work to. So if you want to see what's going on with it, there's a whole lot of information and stuff shared on that playlist. Kay, do you prefer EFI or carburetor? Well, I have not dealt with EFI as far as an aftermarket situation. So my default answer is carburetor, but I would like the convenience of EFI. It would be much simpler. I trust it a lot more when it comes to, firing it up in a cold weather situation where it can regulate the choke and all that stuff much easier. We're all used to a modern vehicle where you just jump in, hit the key, fire it up. A lot of people just dump it in gear and go, but I'll fire it up and let it sit for just a minute, let everything cycle a little bit, get the pressures up, and then drive it. Sometimes you can run into situations with carbureted car where you're, having to crank it and recrank it and, fight with it and stuff like that. So EFI does have its place. Will I put it on this car? Probably not, unless I get, Holly or somebody wants to sponsor my channel and say, hey, we see your project. We'd like to, have you put this on your car. Maybe that's an idea. Holly, Edelbrock, somebody out there, if you want to have a lot of people look at a video of your system, contact me. How about that? Troy, how do you finish the undercarriage and underside of your Mustangs? Well, there's typically, because I'm in the South and I don't have to deal with a lot of harsh conditions, I'll use either 3M undercoating. Once I get it, everything, like when I do the project, I'll put epoxy on, everything underneath the car that I've replaced, sand it and whatever. And then from there, I'll usually just add like a 3M sprayable undercoating, because it's all I really need. Here in the South, there's not much, like I said, not much in the way of bad weather. We don't use salt or anything like that. So that's a simple enough thing for me to spray it down with that undercoating and be done with it. Yeah, Sean, there's I have 600 videos on YouTube on this channel alone. So, if you haven't seen my other channel too, I have Joe Daddy's Workshop, which is kind of everything not car related. But it could be a variety of all kinds of different stuff on that channel. But I have like 600 videos on there, and I would venture to say more than half, probably 2/3 or better, are Mustang videos. So check out the playlist for Jade. Check out the playlist for Mystique if you like the 65 coupes. Check out the playlist for Brooklyn Pony if you want to see a car built from scratch, basically. Check out that video set. So there's plenty on there to see. Jason Snyder, were all 67, 68 Mustangs wired for the hood blinker option, even if they came with a plain hood? That's a good question. I would think that the harness already has a spot for it. I have not researched that very well, but that is a good question that I don't have a good answer for. Honestly, I don't know if this car, because when I got this car, in the first video I showed this car, it has a hideous hood on it. That is it's orange and silver, which somehow I ended up with an orange and silver hood with a big ugly hood scoop on it, and an orange and silver deck lid. When I was rummaging through my shed, my storage building outside, I found that deck lid. I didn't even know I had it. And they're both, oddly enough, they must be aftermarket, because there's no rust or anything in these hoods or panels. And the hood that I had with the car had a hood scoop in it, so it had a plain hood without the inserts. So I don't know for sure if this car actually came with those inserts. I've not gone that far into it. Either way, I'm gonna I'll figure it out. I'll make it work one way or the other. But I do think I would hope that the harness is pre-built for that plug-in. I would hope. Stuff and things. I've been interested in the Holley Sniper, some injected 4V carbs that look possible. Ever heard of it? I've heard of the Holley Sniper, but again, I haven't really researched it. I just haven't gotten into it. At least not yet. Should I keep my Mustang EFI or carb it? Keep it EFI, so it already has EFI, or are you talking like a later model Mustang? Because that'll come into play as well. I'm not sure how the system is working. If everything's working fine, I'd probably leave it alone. Nice shirt, thanks. They're available on Teespring. So if you're, and in fact, my mugs are on Teespring as well. So if you haven't seen these yet, variety of color choices available. Shirts. There's also some other stuff, which I'll probably share that later. I'm gonna, when I get to 50,000 subscribers, which hopefully is soon, I will do a giveaway, and I'll share more on that later. But I'll be doing a giveaway at that point when I get 50,000. So tell your friends, hurry up and subscribe. Watch all the videos. Chris, my 77 Firebird Formula has the same look as a TA front end. Only difference are the deluxe interior and the hood, simulated hood scoops as versus a shaker on the TA. Okay. All right, there we go. Now I'm caught up. Because there's a lot of stuff going on the side screen. You can't see conversations and stuff, but those are my favorite Firebird. I mean, after, like I said, it was 79 or whatever when they went to that big, ugly rubber bumper. Hate the looks of it. Edelbrock EFI. Well, that would be yeah. I would go for that. Sure. Karsten, I have EFI on my car. I go back to carburetor. There's not so much to go wrong. Okay. So you're going back to the carburetor is what you're saying. I get you. That's a good point. Carburetor is pretty simple. That is a good point. Let's see. Chris, 77.8 front end had 4 square headlights with grille, where 7980 had posts between the headlights and the rubber bumper. Yeah, again, just ugly. Just ugly. Ricard, Jason Snyder, here's an answer. Same harness for all cars. Should have the plug-on wires coming through the firewall for the hood blinkers. There you go. I hope so. Paul, would you rather go with power four-wheel drum brakes or manual front disc and drums and back? That's a tough question. Power four-wheel drums or manual front disc and drum and back? Is there another choice? I don't know. I mean, the power is nice because you have that assistance, to applying pressure. But with drum brakes, you really don't need power assist, in my opinion. Manual front discs and drum and back. See, now that I would rather have power discs and drums and back for that same purpose. The disc take more pressure. It's let's see, low volume, high pressure, and high volume, low pressure is the variables. So low volume, high pressure, high volume, low pressure. And I'm trying to remember which one's which, but anyway, I would rather have, honestly, power front discs and drums and back. But between those two choices, I really can't say. I'd probably go with power four-wheel drums. I don't know. Anybody else have advice on that one? Because that's a really tough question to answer. Thank you. No nonsense. Got to get some gear like that. Well, they're out there on Teespring. Go check them out. You should do a giveaway with your wife's coffee mug. Yeah. I could. I could. Randy, I believe my 67 convert was pre-wired with a signal leads for the hood. My hood didn't have the signals though, so I think they do have the leads. Okay. Well, thank you for that. Cade, right now I have a 66 Mustang Coupe and I have a 302 HO from a 91 Fox body. Okay. Well, again, it's that old EFI system. I don't know if I'd be much of a fan of that. I'd probably go with carburetor on that one. Keep it simple. Sean Cummings, back to the basics. Yes. Trofix Games is checking in. Glad you're here. Let's see. Bad Harry, real good carb tuners and rebuilders are getting harder to find. That is a good point, too. Chris Greenaway. So I hear why people don't work on Mercuries is that they have more. Wait a minute. Is that they have more luxurious options that are cumbersome to work. Any truth? Well, that's a good possibility. I know that Mercury's usually had more stuff in them. More, I like the Cougar videos that I did previously with Paul. We were looking over his car and it had, vacuum assist or the vacuum headlights. Had a variety of different things underneath the hood, add-ons and different stuff. But I think most of them came with more options interior wise, and that stuff's hard to find. That is hard to find some of that stuff now. I know that there are some companies starting to remake it, but it's hard to get pieces and parts. DD Speed Shop, manual brakes. Well, there you go. I mean, that's a really tough question whenever you talk about brakes. You have to look at too what your vehicle is going to be doing, what you're using it for. So, but DD Speed Shop, I'm glad you're here. I don't think I've seen you on here before. I know I follow you on Instagram. So glad you're here. Alan is saying money. Is that a dollar symbol? Is meant to be a 4? I think it's meant to be a 4-wheel disc power. CJ's, what's your favorite classic car? There are so many of them. There's so many of them. I mentioned this earlier. We were talking about it. I mean, I grew up in a junkyard, so we had so many different cars in my life. Classic cars. I mean, 69 Mach 1 is on my list. I've talked about it earlier. 53 Studebaker Starlight Coupe, 59 Studebaker Lark, just little oddball things. There's a whole bunch of cars that I appreciate for what they are and were and can be. So anyway, Alan is saying, oops, 4-wheel disc power. Gotcha. Gas and spark and the car run. Yeah, that's right, Karsten. That's true. You don't have to worry about anything else interfering with it. Sean, I didn't know you were married. Yeah. If you ever notice my videos, you'll see this tattoo. That's in place of a wedding ring. Because I don't wear jewelry. I like my hands too much. No jewelry. So, been married 30 years. Well, basically 30 years. Be 30 years next year. Yep. Married, 3 kids, all that stuff. Bad Harry's, for brakes, go with option 3, power disc with drum. Yeah, see, that's kind of what that's where I was leaning. Kate, okay. Jay Cook. Looks like a new name. Glad you're here. Sniper's the only way to go. I've installed several of them, and they're way better than any carb. I have not dealt with them, so I'll take your word for it. But thank you. Let's see. No nonsense. What's your favorite Fox body? That's a tough question too. I would have to. You know what? I think it's pretty cool if you go back to like 80. What was it? 84, 8045. I think they had the Mustang GT that the cops were using, the brown ones. That's probably on my list of favorite Fox body cars. I wouldn't mind having one of those. I think they're really cool. I've seen them occasionally show up at, for sale in various places, but they're bringing big money because they're kind of rare to get a hold of. But yeah, I like those old. I would say it's probably one of my favorites in that sense. Chunchi Daddy, you read about the power front disc in front. Don't go with manual front disc; it's useless. Yeah, see, it's. I don't like that combination. So, um, I like what I have: front discs, power, and rear drum brakes. So, thank you, CJ. Let's see, Randy. All headed back to the grind of insurance sales. Guessing you will not be around next Thursday, but still Monday night. Have a fantastic Thanksgiving. Be safe. Oh, I guess it is. I guess next Thursday is Thanksgiving, huh? You never know. I might be out here. You never know for sure. That or taking a nap. But if I do post a video or plan to be here, there will be a whatever you want to call it, a broadcast notification that I can, schedule it. And so if you see that scheduling, you know I'm out here. Bringle truck. That's a new name. Have not seen that before. I have 5-window 51 Chevy 3100 truck with a LS Swap 6.0 with big cam and turbo, 680 horsepower. Cool. I like those trucks. 51 5-window. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Chris, Joe, any advice on exhaust? I'm looking at a bolt-on catalytic converter back, bolt-on kit versus headers and custom exhaust. Your opinion? I've heard good things about the bolt-on stuff. I've not dealt with it in the era of car that you're referring to, or what if you're talking about. I have not dealt with that setup, especially with the catalytic converter. I know that there are some products out there that are direct bolt-ons, and people have had very good luck with them. I've not tried the kits though myself. I know Harvey, Rally Cat Garage, he did a bolt-on kit that he bought for his 68 coupe that actually matched up exactly to his rear valance that had cutouts built into the valance. He said the pipes went right exactly where they were supposed to go. So I have not bought a kit like that personally, so I really can't say that I would recommend one or the other. But I've heard good things about them. So I guess it's how you want to deal with it, because it can be a hassle to put pipes on sometimes. But again, I have not dealt with kits directly, so sorry. Stam, I have a Mercedes W124 1990. You think I should use it as an everyday driving, or is it going to collapse very soon? I don't have an answer on that. 1990 Mercedes? I don't know what engine that is. I don't know what I don't know the stats on that vehicle, so I can't really give you an opinion on that. Sorry. No nonsense. Sweet. Yeah, 84, definitely a good year for Fox. I wouldn't have to go with the 86 just because it was the last year for the 4Eyes. First year fuel injection. I used to have it all. Factory one, and she was a blast. Okay. Yeah, that's what I like, that nose section. But yeah, and that might be a good option to have first year for fuel injection. But I really like that the cop car ones. I thought those were really, really cool. Troy Best at an 84 GT. What an awesome car. Yeah. I had what was it? I had an 83 Capri, Mercury Capri, but it was a 6-cylinder car. But I enjoyed driving it. It was, it was a nice car to drive. 89 Fox Body A1. Okay. A1. I don't know what the A1 means. Chris Greenaway, whatever Fox Body that was used as a California patrol car. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'd take one of those. Sure, why not? But But, there's also the debate on whether you want to actually have something like that could be more valuable as a, investment than a drivable car. Because, all this stuff goes away eventually. It seems like, there's whatever is made, they don't make them anymore, except for like Dinocorn bodies, stuff like that. But I really doubt somebody's going to be making a new Fox body that you could swap stuff into. I don't know for sure, but eventually, you have to weigh those things out. It's kind of like this Mustang behind me. How much do I have invested in this car? No idea. No idea. I know what I paid for it. I know for the most part what I have in parts. For the most part, um, I couldn't begin to count labor hours, much like everything else that I do, because I go overboard with the stuff that I'm doing. Um, but that's just me. So, is this car ever going to be worth what I have invested in it? Probably not, unless somebody can appreciate really what's in this car and what it's taken to build this car and make it right. Then that person would go, yeah, I'm going to pay you, boom, X amount of money for it. But the reality is we probably never really get back what we invest in these cars. Just, if you really added up your time and labor hours and all that stuff, I'll probably have, if I did the math, it's probably a $50,000 car, but it'll never bring that kind of money. Stuff and things. Back in the days, I used to see those Mustangs sell at auction from the state for under $2,000 all the time here in Utah. Yep. Chris, I wonder why Mercury Cougars haven't hit it like the Mustang. Exact same body, nice interior, and a little more elegant grille. It's a very close. It's very close body. I think the car is actually 6 inches longer. I think there's a difference in length. I think behind the rear seat it's a little bit longer, but the reality is it just doesn't hit. I don't think it hits everybody the same. You look at a Mustang and you're drawn to that era of the pony car, 60s. The Cougar came out in 67. So it kind of tagged along with the first generation. They had the first generation Mustangs, and then when 67 came out with the slightly bigger Mustang, which it's really the same size, then the branding decided, let's come up with another car that kind of follows the platform. Well, I think everybody has in that time period where like the Mustang was here first, and then, again, like the Cougar kind of tagged along for the ride. So from a historical standpoint or a fan standpoint, it's like the Mustang has always been here. And then the Cougar lived a short cycle overall. I mean, it started 67, probably died out in, was it 77, 78? I don't even know if it's that long. I don't remember exactly. It's almost like you forget about them because they never hit your mind like the Mustangs did. So now, are they cool cars? Sure they are. I saw one the other day at a cruise in, super rare 428 convertible 4-speed. I posted pictures of it on Facebook. It was like one of 7 built, but like nobody knows about them. It's like they know about them, but they don't. The Mustangs were so popular that they can easily sell parts for those. So it takes a big investment to make panels for vehicles that may or may not get as much attention, if that makes sense. So, okay. So Chunchi said the A1 had the roller cam. Okay. Well, that's good. 89. Okay. So can you take an 89 and put the 86 nose on it? I don't remember where they transitioned the bodies. I don't remember what year they started changing, different things. Gordon, you should get your wife a Pinto. That would prevent her from getting in trouble with the speed cops. Yeah. Well, I said early on that this was meant to be for my wife, but she's not going to drive it. I mean, if she wants to, she can, but I don't think she's ever going to feel comfortable in the car, honestly. It just has too much giddy up, and I think she'd be apprehensive about driving it. Chris, Joe, it's not about how much you put into it; it's about the tinkering in the shop to avoid the 9 to 5 grind. As my dad taught me, there is people who buy their toys and garage them and never use them. That is true. That is true. Or the people who build and enjoy them. Exactly. Chris Greenaway could say the same. The Mustang also outshines the Torinos as well. Yeah, that is very true. The Torinos, again, they were. I'm not even sure what the market competition was for like the Torino. What were they trying to compete with? A Chevelle, kind of thing? Because I don't know where you look at these different cars they come out with, and the Mustang. Well, the competitor for Mustang was a Camaro, and then the competitor for the Camaro became the Challenger or the Cuda, and then the competitor for those two became the Javelin type of thing, or the SST, and those sort of things. So there was a bunch of competition in certain niches. So let's see, Bad Harry, I'm building my car for me, not to sell. The work you put into your car, most cars are not anywhere near that nice. Many cars pretty on the outside and horror story underneath. Yes, I can agree with that completely. Yeah. I'm guessing you mean Cougar died out in the 80s. Yeah, I mean it's again, it's almost like the Mercury what? Because at a certain time, the Cougar just lost appeal as it went forward, just like the Thunderbird. The Thunderbird and the Cougar ended up being, I think, the same car. So you look at a Mustang, and they kind of kept that small little, kind of smaller body up until 73, where it got big and bulky, and then 74 it turned into a Pinto. But the Cougar became, the Thunderbird, I think, comparison, and then it's like, they just kind of faded away. Nobody really got into them after that, or in that time period. The Mercury Cougar XR7 died out in the 80s. Yeah, and nobody noticed. I mean, it's the truth. Nobody really paid attention. Thunderbird, the Thunderbirds, they became a little more popular when Bill Elliott won the championship in '85. I think it was NASCAR championship. That was the only time those kind of became, popular. But the era of the Mercury Cougar just kind of went away. Okay, so Chevelle and Monte Carlo is what you're saying it competed with. Okay, that makes sense. Monte Carlo, Chevelle, yeah. And even the Monte Carlo was a cool car, but it was a big, long car. It wasn't really in the hot rod. It was more of a luxury type of car, even though you could get it with a 454 and a 4-speed in 71. And then of course that whole design changed as future went on. Roadrunner. Jeff Reynolds, BHH. I think that's what we saw on the front end of the Mustang last week. BHH? Oh, Bad Harry's. Okay. Oh yeah. Talking about the 68 that Jason shared with us. Yes. Chauncey, I believe the Cougar tried to compete with the 73 to 74 Chargers. That's another car that I just can't get into. 73 Charger? Bleh. Hate to say it. I mean, even if somebody gave me one, I'd probably sell it. Just that big long nose and not an attractive car. 110. Actually, they made Cougars until the early 2000s, but I think they should have died in the 90s with the 5.0 and the 4.6 V8 rear-wheel drive cars, but most people say they should have died in the 70s. They made it all the way into the 90s? I guess they did, because they kept making the Thunderbird up until whatever. And that was just a swapping over of a few emblems to make it a Cougar. And I know they changed the roof line and stuff like that, but yeah, I just the Cougar should have died probably in the early 70s and just left it. Bad Harry's. My dad had a rare 72 Montego GT with 351 in Cleveland, which had like a fastback, longer back window. I have not seen one since. Big car, but fast and cool. Wow. 72 Montego GT, kind of like a fastback. I'd have to look that up to see that. Yeah, I'd have to look that up to see one of those. I remember we had a Montego at my dad's junkyard. It was like a powder blue or baby blue, and it was had bench seats in it. It was probably about a 72, somewhere in that era. Powder blue, high back bench seats with an armrest. And it also had one of the weirdest radios I've ever seen. And I don't know if it was a dealer installed item or if it was an option you could buy, but it was an AM FM 8-track with a CB radio built in. Imagine how collectible that would be. AM FM 8-track with a CB radio. It actually had a mounted handheld mic, and it was built to the dash. It was like installed as an original piece. There was no butchering of the car. So I don't know if that was an option or something else, but I've never seen one before or since. Thunderbird was popular when Davey Allison was racing too. Yeah, that is true. That's a good point. Much cooler car than Bill Elliott's car, as far as I'm concerned. Paint scheme. I like the paint scheme on Davey Allison's car. Chris, that Harry have one in the community. My dream garage, 72 Montego GT. Yep. In your dream, you have one, or it's in your dream garage? That's the thing. I mean, it's a shame that some of these cars, again, are lost to history. A design that was popular in the early 70s kind of fades away. People are still interested in these cars. I've had a gentleman contact me the other day he had contacted me about a year or so ago about his Cougar, wanted me to put a quarter panel on it. And I went to his house and looked at it, and he contacted me recently and said, what kind of, where do you get your welding gas? Because I think he's going to attempt it himself, which I'm glad he should. But again, there's a niche following for certain types of cars or certain, styles of cars. And the Cougar has its own little niche. The Mustang niche is much bigger. There are people who follow, like I said, Monte Carlos, certain Chevelles, certain whatever, you can break it down into different categories. I even you look at old, a 68, 69 Pontiac Vista Cruiser wagon. Sharp car. If you're not familiar with that, it's the one that had glass in the roof panels, where it came across, it had glass inserts in the roof panels. There are people, that would love to have one of those. I think they're cool cars. So you have all kinds of different niches of car following, but again, you have like Camaro, big niche, Mustang, big niche. Of course, Mopar has a really weird following, of different types of Mopar stuff. But anyway, let's see what else is going on. Okay, so Chris says cruising community member has one 302 4-speed. Very cool. All fossil. Yeah. You're saying all fossil fuel cars are going to be lost in history from 2030 here in the UK. What does that mean? They're going to make you get rid of them? That doesn't sound good. Our soup. Last cool Thunderbird was in 1966. You're probably right. You're probably right. I mean, the Thunderbirds, they went from being a sports car to a big, big, big luxury type of car. You know, you look at that first generation of Thunderbirds, you're like, wow, that is so cool. What happened? You know, I think 58, 59, 60, 61. When they do with, and they did away with the fins, you know, and then 64, 65, 66, 67. I can't even picture what a 67 Thunderbird looks like. I can picture 66, but I really can't even, 67, 68. I think they started doing four doors, you know, and changed the whole mindset of what the Thunderbird should be or could be. Hello, 65 Coupe, manual front disc, rear drum, switching to a dual reservoir master. Is it possible to use the original brake pedal, push rod, or do I need to switch to adjustable, like to keep original? Let's see, in 65, I know, I can tell you this, the conversion I did on the 68, I had to change the pedal because the location of the rod moved. I think it takes a different stroke to make that work properly. So I think it's a longer stroke because it's got to go further into the master cylinder. But I know I had to swap out the pedal for this 68 sitting behind me when I converted it over to power. Well, I did power front disc though. So you're saying you're switching to dual reservoir master cylinder. So that, are you putting power brakes? Are you making it power, or are you just swapping over to the dual master cylinder? And I guess if so, why are you swapping over to a dual, unless you're just trying to get a better brake bias? Yeah, I don't know if I have the answer you're looking for on that one. I don't know if I have I know with the conversion of the to power disc brakes, I had to do the different pedal. Chuncy, you guys have a wonderful evening. God bless y'all. Yeah, I'm glad you're here. Okay, so Jeff Reynolds, no petrol or diesel cars can be sold new from 2030. It was announced by Prime Minister Boris Johnson. That doesn't sound good at all. So what's it, just going all to electric? Is that what they're saying? That's not a good sign. 67 looked like a Lincoln. Okay. All right. So Bad Harry says emailed pick of 72 Montego. All right. Oh, wow. I'll pull that up real quick. I didn't realize I'm already almost at 2 hours. So we're going to have to probably end this before too long. I usually only like to go an hour on Thursdays, but there's a lot of people here. I've got 78 on the viewers right now. So I appreciate everybody being here. Let me pull up Bad Harry's picture that he sent me. Hold on. And boom. Wow. Pick of 72 Montego GT. Huh. Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking that's kind of how that blue one looked, but I don't remember it having a fastback. I know the front end looks right, but I don't remember seeing a fastback like that. That's got to be a rare car. That's got to be a rare car. It's cool looking with the red and the Magnum wheels. That's a cool looking car. I mean, it's big. I'm not going to want to take a corner at 100 miles an hour in it, but yeah, that's a cool car. Okay. Thank you for sharing that, Bad Harry. Okay, so you're keeping manual brakes. You're just converting to dual reservoir. You probably ought to look into, I don't know who you're getting, if you're using a kit, what they recommend. because it seems like you're going to need something different. Maybe it's a longer rod, that you'll need to operate off the same pedal. That's about the best I can offer. Jeff, petrol electric hybrid is allowed to 2035, then all electric. Okay. That doesn't sound good at all. Okay, so Karsten is saying it's the same all over Europe. Wow. I'm glad I don't live in Europe right now. Gas car not legal after 2030. Man. Yeah. Life with Andrew. Hi, I see a 66 Volkswagen Bus going for $19,000 near me. What would the estimated restoration cost look like? They want 66. Wait, they want 19,000 and it needs to be restored? I can't give you an answer on that. Because without seeing it and knowing what condition, and there's a lot of variables there. How intact is it? What's original? What's rusted? What's full of Bondo? What kind of work has already been done to it? I mean, one of those old buses, you could still put in $30,000 to restore it. But I don't know, again, without being able to actually see it. It's kind of hard to estimate. All right, let's see what else we have. Chris, 7 to 10,000 made at 72, 73, but 73 had that ugly 5-mile-per-hour crash bumper. Oh, okay. Randy, depends if going to front disc with conversion. Well, it sounds like he's just doing straight up keeping drums, but making power drums or dual reservoir drums. Jeff, I'll be immigrating to the U.S. if Trump number 2 will let me in. Okay. Let's see. Depends on the model and the window count. 23 Windows Sambas go for 45,000. Yeah, that's the hard part. Is how do you know without more detail as to what it is or what's been done to it? It's really hard to assess. I know I was looking at. I've talked about it before on Ken Diggett Designs. There was a show where he had bought I don't know what is it? How many windows are in one of those? A 23 window or something that he bought, and with a sole purpose of rebuilding it. And as it turns out, which he already knew, but they found out from a guy who was like a professional in that realm of those VWs, that it wasn't an original, however many window VW bus, that it was somebody had cut the top off and welded on to make it that way. But they found all kinds of rust in that thing, and they ended up rebuilding the frame, putting in one-piece floor pans. They took the whole nose of it off and put a whole nother nose section on, all kinds of stuff. So it's really hard to assess some of that stuff. Mike Ward found out today my new to me 69 289 has dual valve springs. Have not pulled intake or cam, but safe to say bigger cam is in there. It's possible. It is possible, but I am not. I can't remember if some of them came with factory dual springs. It'd be nice if you had some history on it, but it's possible. It's possible it has a bigger cam. D. Robertson, have you used Dynacorn doors and fenders on a 66 Mustang, and what do you think of them? Well, if you go to my playlist and you look up Brooklyn Pony, that's what I have on the convertible, the 66 convertible. It's up on the lift. It's all Dynacorn. And you can look at some of that stuff. Now, quarter panels, they were okay. I have dealt with what I'll say is panels that weren't truly Dynacorn, but they had a Dynacorn label on them, and those had mixed results. So, but overall, they're probably the best thing you can get out there right now. I don't think anybody's making really much any better than what Dynacorn does. But again, I caution, as long as it's got they're, as long as it's parts that they've actually made. Let's put it that way. Because, like I said, I have fenders on that car that had Dynacorn stickers on the box. You take the sticker off, and it had the Made in Taiwan label on it. It was just a regular generic branding that stuck a Dynacorn label on it. But I think they are making their own doors specifically and their own quarter panels. So I've had pretty good luck with them. Bad Harry, I find it hard to believe that there will be enough power available to charge everyone's electric cars. Most countries can't even keep up electricity demands for AC in a heat wave. You are very right about that. And where do they get the power for to make the electricity? Where is that coming from? Well, most of it is coming from, fossil fuel fire plants or, coal industry. They're burning coal to make electricity. So what's the trade-off? I mean, they're still burning fossil fuels, unless everybody gets their own windmill. And even then, you got to make the windmill. And, to find out that the blades for the big giant windmills they're making, they're not recyclable, and they're taking them out west, and they dig these giant holes in the ground, and they put the old blades in the windmill from the windmill in the ground because they can't recycle them. So they're just burying them out west. Like, oh, don't look. Nobody knows. We'll just, put these out here and nobody will ever see them. But they're there. Okay, so asking 351 Cleveland or Windsor. You're asking me? I don't really have a good answer on that. It depends on what you're building it for. I mean, Cleveland is going to be more powerful, I would assume. Probably a little harder to work on in the engine bay, where the Windsor is going to be easier to work on, do stuff too. But I don't really have a clear-cut path on that. Amarant Detailing. Glad you're here. I follow you on Instagram too. So you're nice check-in. Glad you're here. Chris, everybody with 340 Duster, board to 416, beats my neighbor's 383 Roadrunner and 396 Nova, 675 miles per gallon. Yeah. Yeah. Randall Heath, checking in from Utah. We were all talking about Cougars earlier, Randall. You should have been here. Carson, wind in the sun future is coming, but still my old Mustang 68. Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's going to have to the bulk of it will have to be solar power, I would think. But there's all kinds of stuff involved with making that work. People don't realize to make these batteries, you got to destroy a bunch of stuff to make batteries, and people don't understand that. They think it's just they're just batteries. Poof, poof. Look, here's a battery. Poof. No, look at what it takes to make that battery. Look at what elements you have to dig out of the earth. What you have to do. There's places. China and stuff where they don't follow the rules. There's toxic waste pits full of chemicals that are the end result of making the batteries. There's a lot of byproduct, and that's just as bad as almost anything else we do. But nobody wants to say that. I read one time that a Prius, whatever, little Toyota Prius, that the carbon footprint to make that Prius, now this is that time period, the carbon footprint to make that Prius is actually bigger than the carbon footprint to make a Hummer, because of what you have to do to make the batteries for all that stuff. People don't want to think about that. They don't want to take that into account. They just think, oh, it's poof, battery. It's kind of like somebody will say, what do we need farms for? If you need food, just go to the grocery store, right? People actually think that. Or what do I need to worry about power or where it comes from? I just plug into the wall and I have power. Where does it come from? Nobody ever thinks, or a lot of people don't want to think that far back on, let's say, the food chain of how we get everything we have today, where it comes from, what it takes to make that, what is destroyed to make the new item. A lot of people don't think about that. So just the truth, just saying. Michael Ward, I'm trying to decide where the windmill pole will fit in the trunk of my 68 fastback. Well, you don't need, you may have to get one of those bike rack things where you just clamp it on and then just have it, kick up when you're going down the road, so that thing's spinning and charging up the battery, and then, maybe your best option. I guess it's Amarant or Amarante Detailing. I know I'm honored for your likes. Everybody likes. I'm also on YouTube if you want to learn Spanish. Well, I don't have much to say in Spanish. Sorry, but thank you for the offer. Bad Harry, 351 Windsor versus Cleveland. I would do neither. Cheaper and more parts for 302. Just my 2 cents. Well, there you go. There's a good answer. Stick with the 302 and keep it simple, right? Okay. Again, now I'm over 2 hours. I got things to do. It's nice to have this many people here, but I'm gonna have to call it quits. Let me see what Randall is saying. And any thoughts on using structural adhesive for bonding areas? Deck filler flange to quarter panel flange. I was going to try brazing, but I have not been impressed with my brazing tests. I mean, I've used panel bond adhesive before, 3M stuff, and it works. It does. Like if you were doing a collision job, you could actually cut like bedsides. You could use it all across the top of the bedsides, but you have to weld the ends. Just the way the thing is. Now, with your car, I don't think it's going to be that critical. You could get it in there. If you can get clamps on it, hold it together, I think it'll be fine. Chris, but if we had a mix on the road where we can balance pollution versus no emissions, city people need to switch to electric, as rural areas definitely need gas due to winter. Yeah, I would agree with that. Sure. You live in a city, you drive an electric car, I guess. Carson, gas will run out anyway, so why not start now? Well, that's true, but you still have to have something creating the power. But you're right. Eventually, gas will run out. We assume. They told us it would run out in the 70s, though, and then they kept finding more and more and more and more and more. So I don't know if they really know what the deposits hold. Gordon put a rammer turbine on it. There you go. All right. Okay. I'm going to call it a day. I've got other things to do. It's been nice chatting though. And I'm glad everybody's been here. Lots of good conversation today. Lots of good comments. I'm looking forward to Monday night. We'll do it again, 7:00, and probably not on Thursday, at least not that I think of. There's that nice turkey dinner waiting on Thursday. So, yeah, we're gonna call it a day. Again, thanks everybody for being here. Again, if you're interested, there's Joe Daddy's mugs, coffee mugs available on Teespring, shirts on Teespring. Thank you all for using Amazon. There's links on my Facebook page. There's links in my banner. If you look at my YouTube banner up here in the corner, there's a link for Amazon. All that is helping out. I appreciate that very much. And all those that have, the people that have been helping me out with Patreon, thank you so much for that. We'll do this again Monday, but it was nice to have everybody here. Sounds like my neighbor just started up his mower, so good timing. But until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.